Yes people, it's Bake here from Bigboybeatz, but I'm not talking to you today about a Bigboybeatz release. I'm talking to you about my track, Like a Bumbo, that was released on Step 2 Records. That's just got to the JUNO and Beatport Top 100. So we're going to jump into the door and take you a little bit behind the scenes of how the track was made. Let's jump in. Check 1, 2, and I think we're in the game. So here is the project. Take how I break it down, really, to start with. I've changed my process since I've produced this track. What I do now is I have my kick and my bass in the same group, but that was something that I've only recently started doing. So the way I've got it all broken down is I've got my beats here and little percussive elements are all in red. I've got my bass in orange. Any additional synths that I put in, vocal elements all in blue, effects in purple. So that's the mixer view. If we look at the arrangement view, pretty simple track, to be honest with you. The majority of it was made up by the different elements to the bass line and how the percussion interacts with those different elements, and also how the effects complement all of those. But what we'll do is we'll start just by looking at these introductory, is that even a word? Introductory drums, and all I did is I basically bounced the drums out as an audio stem and then filtered them, but we'll have a listen. So that basically takes you into the first drop. Let's listen to the drums and the percussion on their own. So quite a lot going on here. We've got a kick. Disclaimer, I use a lot of samples in this. I was in that state of mind where I just wanted to get something down really, really fast. I've got an idea for the track from the vocal. And I think one of the melodies, one of the melodic elements. So I literally just threw a load of samples in. So we've got the kick. Got the clap, or one of the clap. In fact, I'll play all the claps together. Got some snares, which I think were the only part that I actually programmed in as MIDI. And then moving on to the hi-hats, I'll play all the hi-hats together. Listening to all of those together as a beat group with... I'll put the scratch sample in as well. So as you can hear, the drums are quite skippy, quite punchy. I always have this little mini scratch sample in pretty much every track that I make. It's almost becoming like a bit of a signature sound. but then I also had them duplicated quite a number of times when it gets to this point here. Can't actually remember what this bit was. Oh, of course it was a break. It's been a while since I made this track, so I'm trying to remember everything that I did as I'm going through it. So there are the drums. Let's minimise all that down so I know we've been through it. But we'll look at the processing on the drums. So EQ doing nothing really. I think I'll just put that on there just to see what the balance was like. I used some parallel compression using the Ableton stock compressor, using utility there just to bring the levels back down because I gain stage as I go along. So I usually have everything coming out at around minus 18 dB. Empty club reverb, which helps fill the spaces between the drum elements. And it's weird the way I use it because I have it on a really short decay. I have the dry wet quite dry, but then I use that in conjunction with a transient master, which almost undoes what the reverb is doing. And what it's doing basically is it's pulling down the tail of that reverb and making the drums just a little more shorter and sharper. But for some reason you need the reverb and that together to sort of like it helps glue the drums together. And then I added this Harrison drum flow, just adding a little bit around about the 92 hertz range, and then cutting out some of the muddy frequencies that were in the drums, just under 300. So that's the drums. Looking at the bass, let's take you from the top of the bass elements. So what I want to try and do is just play you a full sort of like loop of all the elements. So I think if I play up to there, you should be able to hear it. So let's have a listen and see if that plays.
Drop the bass like a bum bum.
Didn't solo it, did I? I'm not good at doing this YouTube thing. You should just sack me now. So that's the main bass riff, but then as it goes on there are some subtle changes. Like here where we've got the little bit of a break beat, we've got a bass drop is the term for it, I think. So if I just play this part, so there's the bass. If I play the bass with all the drums, you get a feel for how they work together. Now something that I really like about this track is the space that I leave in the drums and the percussion elements to let some of the bass changes come through. So if we just look at this section here, you see I cut all the drums out so we can have this bass play. And it all just helps give the track just that bit more of a groove, really. Makes it all that more skippy. So listen to that in context again. So the one thing we didn't talk about when we started talking about the bass is the intro bass is totally different. I think the intro bass, we've got it as like a bit of a re-space, haven't we? Yeah, it is. It's a re-space. It's 2 re-spaces. So let's have a listen to those on their own. So that was intentional to make the bass at the start of the track totally different to what it was at the end of the track. Sorry, throughout the main meat of the track. But as you can see, we've got these re-spaces appearing 3 times. We've got them at the start, we've got them in the breakdown, and then we've got them at the end. So that's the bass, mainly. What have we got on the bass, processing-wise? We've got an EQ, cutting out everything below 13. I could have probably gone a bit higher than that, to be honest, but it felt about right in the earphones and on the monitors. We've got ozone imager, which is basically just monoing the majority of it. I did want to keep some stereo elements in the bass, especially in the re-space, but not too wide. Got a compressor. Got another EQ here, which I'm boosting even more at, and I'm taking even more out. Sometimes you do things when you're making tracks, and when you actually go back through them, you almost can't see the sense in what you've done, but you've obviously done it at that point in time for a reason. Track spacer, which is just side chaining the bass to the kick. So if I just play a bit of that here, you'll see that in action. Now the reason I use track spacer as opposed to Ableton's stock compressor, it's because you can set where you want it to apply the sidechain to. I didn't want the sidechain applied to sort of like the upper mids and the high end of the bass, just that low end really to get it out of the way of the kick. Then I used a Slate Digital Warm Present Bass preset on the bass. Again, it's been a while since I made this track, so I can't fully recall exactly what the idea was. I believe what I wanted to do, if I look at what's being applied here, there's some compression that's being applied, and also I've added a bit of thickness just to round off that that low end a little more. And then I used the utility right at the end of it just to bring the level down. Again, because I gain stage all the way through, so you may see as I go through this there'll be quite a lot of utilities. Moving on to the synths or the stabs, we'll have a listen to these and see what I did with these. It looks like all of these are coming out of Serum. Let's have a look what preset we've got on Serum. So it was a preset out of Sample Pack by the looks of it. And I think it's the same on the second instance, but I think it's just an octave up that I'm playing it. And it's drenched in reverb. Those are bounced out to give the reverse version of that synth as well. Moving on to the vocals, then all the vocal stabs. We've got this filtered up vocal loop, should we say. Now that actually goes through the entire track, but I used the filtered down version of it for the intro, for the break and the outro. And we've got lots of little sort of like one stops at a shop from the Midlands. Not too sure whether you have them anywhere else in the UK, but try and go through them really quickly.
The bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up.
So you can hear how all them are individually. If I play a little bit of all the vocals together.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Drop the bass like a bumbo.
So they pretty much repeat throughout the whole track. The effects section, I think got a little bit of a build up here. Which is basically one of the vocals that's just had a load of reverb applied and reversed. We've got standard dirty vinyl thing that's sitting underneath it that's just adding a bit of texture. You probably can't even hear that because it's quite low volume. And I think this is just like a stab with a load of delay that's applied to it. Looking at, I'm aware that I'm skipping between the vocal and the effects, but the one thing that I swear by with vocals is taking the majority of the low end out, and I have this solid state vocal strip. It has a compressor, a de-esser, a deploser and an EQ all built in. So it's got a bit of compression on, it's got a really quick attack and a slow release, a 2-to-1 ratio. It's just helping even the volume out. Got the de-esser on a little bit, taking out some of the S's and the F's. The deploser on, which is cutting the frequencies at around about 120 Hertz and just dampening them down a bit. A little bit of a boost on the EQ and a little bit of a cut where there was a resonance. So let's just play the vocals again on solo, and I'll leave this window up so you can see what it's doing.
It's like a bumbo. like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo.
I keep forgetting to mute the mic when I'm playing the track, so if you hear some sort of like mic bleed, I'll apologise. I'll say this in every video that I do. All these are unscripted. I don't take myself too seriously. I don't take life too seriously. Neither should you, because you only live once. So what I do normally, and I'm not even sure whether I did it on this track, and it's going to be a shame if I don't. I don't think I have. Is once I've got all my buses sorted, what I usually do is I usually set an EQ up on the end and just process things in context. So I will make sure that there's no frequencies that are clashing between the rest of the beats and all the other elements. But it seems like I did this track sort of super quick, and I just went with the vibe on it, to be fair. And I think that's the best thing to do sometimes. We can overthink music production quite a lot and never get anything out as a result of it. And I hate that about myself, because I do overthink a lot. So I mentioned at the start of the video, and hopefully I'll be able to sort of like pop some images up on screen as we're going through. This track was made during a period of time where I was struggling for inspiration. I got the track going, sent it over to one of the guys over at Step 2 Records, Step 2 UKG. The two guys there, Stu and Chris, absolutely phenomenal guys. If you are an artist, whether it's sort of like new school, old school garage, old school garage, some dark garage, some really, really bass heavy stuff, or future garage, they are the label for you. They have been releasing with them for a couple of years now. The communication's also always excellent. They're a great bunch of guys. But I sent the track over to, it was Chris from Step 2 Records, also known as DJ Pencil. Asked him what he thought of it, and asked him if he'd be interested, and Step 2 snapped it up, which I was really, really grateful for. They took the release off my hands. They sorted the artwork out, which I'll put on screen now, and we set the track up for release, and we were buzzing, really, really happy. Track then came out, and it got some massive support for some of the bigger DJs out there. Ed Case was looking at it, Bullet Tooth was looking at it, and then it ended up in the Beatport and JUNO Top 100 for UK Garage and Bassline. So we were obviously really, really thrilled with that, and massively pleased. Something that's slightly weird with this track is I mastered it as I went along. Now, as we've been going through this, I've had the master chain on, just because I wanted you to hear the track in context. But I'm going to turn the master chain off, and I'm going to solo a part of the track, and I'm just going to keep turning my master chain on so you can hear the differences, and then we'll talk a little bit about the master chain.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Drop the bass like a bumbo.
Now, again, I don't usually master in the project at all. Simple reason being, I think it's nice to be able to commit a mix and then work on a WAV as audio. I think if you constantly master in the same project that you're mixing down in, you'll never be happy. But this track, it just works. It's just the way it was flowing. My master chain's nothing extravagant, but I will show you everything that I do as part of my mastering process. I'd say the most important things about my entire mastering process is this plugin here, which is a free version of Ulean, and if it opens, this plugin here, tonal balance. What this enables you to do is it enables you to see if your track from a visual perspective is hitting the right sort of levels in terms of loudness, and it has a balance across it. Now, talking about the tonal balance plugin first, I got it on the EDM preset because I think this track's less garage and it's more sort of like in your face sort of electronic music, so to speak. But if I play a snippet of the track, you'll be able to see that the line is loosely within this target curve. So let's just press play and remember to mute my mic.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo.
So I can't live without those two plugins, to be honest with you. Starting the entire chain off is Soothe, and what Soothe does, it's almost like it's a dynamic EQ, and what it does is it cuts out some of the harsh frequencies automatically for you, so you haven't got to go through and do it surgically. Bit of a cheat code. It didn't do a lot on this track. I'll play it just so you can see what it's doing.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up.
I've then got a standard group which I usually apply to everything, which is a utility, just in case I do need to automate the stereo width or the gain at certain elements. Mono in the bass, everything below 120 Hz, and there's an EQ on there just in case I do need to do any corrective EQ at this stage. I've then got a multiband compressor using a preset that Streaky made available, and what it does is it's got there loosened the bottom, but in my opinion it tightens the bottom end up a little bit. What it does is it makes your kick and your bass sit more coherently, and the frequencies react to each other, so when the bass is hitting, the kicks compressing more, vice versa. It's a really, really good preset. If you go and check out some of Streaky's videos, you'll be able to grab that that preset for FabFilter Pro MB. I've then got a soft sine saturator on it. Now you'll see that I'm not actually driving it at all. However, when you apply it, it still makes it sound like it's being processed through a saturator. Sometimes I may apply a little bit of drive, but I didn't. Then we've got an EQ that's doing something quite dramatic here. It's boosting the mids quite a bit and cutting out a little bit of the top end, but it's only doing it to the sides of the track, because when I listen back to it, in that mid-range, around about 600-700 Hz, it did feel like the stereo elements, the sides just needed to be a bit more prominent. Then got an ozone imager, which I'm using just to control the stereo width a little bit more. Then got a bus compressor, SSL. Threshold, make up a tiny bit. We've got a medium attack, and I've got the release set to auto on a 1.5 ratio, and that's sort of like my go-to setting for the mastering stage. Always remember to turn your oversampling on, because it gives you the best quality, but it is more CPU intensive. Then got a limiter, and the limiter was just tickling the top on this. I'll play the track so you can hear it.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up.
See, I'm trying to be clever now. I've messed with the settings on the limiter. It's caused all the music to cut out, but that should be easily fixable. But in essence, what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're actually bouncing it out, you have this set on the highest setting, which is the oversampling setting, as high as you can get it, just so it gives you that best quality.
Drop the bass like a bumbo.
And I have actually caused the audio to totally cut out, but we've sort of got to the end anyway. Now let me turn this whole chain off again and see if that makes the music play again.
Drop the bass like a bumbo. Turn it up. Pull up. Drop the bass like a bumbo.
I think it's my headphones that have just broke, because I know that Ableton's getting signal, but I'm not getting any signal through my headphones. So I think my audio interface may have just decided it wants to give up the ghost, but never mind. So yeah, that's the track, Like a Bumbo, out on Step 2 Records, out everywhere: JUNO, Beatport, TrackSource, Spotify. The link is always going to be in the description. It will take you to my website that has all my tracks on, and you'll be able to go and grab that track as well from there. So as always, thanks so much for watching this little bit of a track breakdown. Go and check out Step 2 Records. Like, share and subscribe this video if you can, because it goes a massive way to helping me grow the channel. Big up. I've been Baker. Catch you soon.